Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a great day. Welcome to tonight's session on Fueling Ride London 2023, this coming Sunday. Ben from My Cycling Coach. For those who don't know me, Ben from My Cycling Coach, founder and lead sports scientist at My Cycling Coach. Been getting a lot of questions around Ride London then. This coming weekend, people just wanting to understand a little bit more how they can really fuel the event, some hydration strategies around this, nutrition strategies. I thought I'd just take the time this evening to run through this on the main page and see, hopefully this will help you guys. Just know that you can be a bit more confident going into the event, going into the ride, feeling a lot more confident with your nutrition and fueling, that you can then really put in your best performance on the day and know that your energy levels are where they need to be going into that ride. You can really then fuel up well but sustain them throughout, you can have a great ride, just enjoy it a lot more, feel fueled, and get the most out of the ride and enjoy putting your best performance on the day, whether that be that you are looking to achieve a personal best, or you are just wanting to go and complete the ride itself there. So what are we going to be running through tonight? I'm going to be splitting this session into two parts really. The first part is going to be the pre-ride fueling. So we're going to be chatting through there, more specifically around, from Saturday, obviously with the ride being on Sunday, Saturday, what to focus on there, the amounts and things. And then I will dive into the during ride fueling side of things, and this is where we'll talk more about achieving the amounts, what you can use, looking at hydration strategies there as well, as it's also absolutely crucial. And then once I've run through those two parts, I will then at the end there'll be some time for questions. If you have got any questions, then I will at the end we'll run through some Q&A if you have got any questions on anything I've mentioned, or if there's anything you would like to ask. But as I'm just running through this evening, if you would like to just say hi, good evening. I've seen that Nick's on there. Nick, thanks for saying hi. I hope you're well. Let's get cracking. So as I mentioned, starting then with the pre-ride fueling, and what I'm going to be running through this evening, this is really mainly targeting the 100-mile route. What I'm basing a lot of the amounts and the timings on this evening, but you can of course apply these strategies if you are doing maybe some of the shorter routes as well. It's absolutely no problem, but a lot of the amounts are going to be based around that 100-mile route that we've got there. So let's get started. Pre-ride fueling then coming in. So with the event being on Saturday, you really want to start focusing a little bit on the fueling, just paying a bit more attention to your nutrition from the Saturday. So this is going just through the Saturday in general, your breakfast, lunch, more specifically then dinner, the evening meal, which is what we're really going to dive into. But even your breakfast and your lunch on the Saturday, you really want to be focusing on good quality sources of carbohydrate, and more specifically, the complex sources of carbohydrates, which are also referred to more as the starchy based carbs. So these can be your, pasta, potatoes, rice, muesli, porridge, wholemeal breads, those sorts of starchy based carbohydrates. And as I say, you want to be placing a focus on those with your nutrition from the Saturday morning, the day before the ride, to really top up that muscle and liver glycogen, to start topping up those sources, building those energy levels the day before. And the more that you can do this the day before, then not so much that you don't have as much to do on the Sunday, you still really do have to focus there, but you're just really stocking up that muscle and liver glycogen, which is absolutely crucial when you're then going to do a longer endurance event the next day. So that's sort of breakfast and lunch. Really then specifically then diving into the pre-ride fueling amounts in detail then is when you're going to do this sort of duration of ride or length of ride. You want to be having as part of your pre-ride fueling 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrate per kilo of body weight as your total carbohydrate intake before starting the ride. And if you think about this on actually the morning of the ride, this is actually quite a lot to be eating. If you do that multiplication with your body weight, 2 or 3 grams of carbohydrate times your body weight, it's a lot to be eating, obviously, before the ride, certainly early in the morning. The start times I've looked, they start, I think, between rolling out from 6 to 9 a.m. in the morning. So trying to consume that amount of carbs that early in the morning, very difficult. So the key strategy here is to split this with the evening prior. So we're looking at Saturday evening. that's where you want to really start dialing in on those amounts. So the Saturday evening before starting the ride on the Sunday morning. And again, you want to be achieving those amounts through focusing on the complex carbohydrates. So again, this is the starchy based carbs, your pasta, potatoes, rice. It might be even a pizza is a great way to get some good amounts of carbohydrates in on the Saturday evening, basing your meals around those really good high sources of complex carbohydrate, the starchy based carbs, as that is what is going to allow you to really top up your muscle and liver glycogen, your energy levels overnight, then going into the morning of the ride. You can, of course, add in some protein, some fruits and vegetables as well, a good well-balanced meal on the Saturday evening. It doesn't just have to be literally a bowl of pasta or spaghetti or rice or potatoes or something like that. You can, of course, add some protein to this as well. It might be some meat, it might be some fish. If you don't eat meat and fish, it might be some beans, lentils, dairy, other sources of protein that you can also add to the carbs. But the carbohydrates, as I mentioned there, that should be the primary focus of that meal on the Saturday evening. Another great thing about this strategy and splitting, as I mentioned, that 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrate per kilo of body weight the evening prior, is what it allows you to do is really top up those muscle and liver glycogen levels overnight. So you've really topped up well there. But then it also means if you're rolling out at 9 a.m. in the morning, then you don't have to eat as much in the morning. So you may just then wake up in the morning. Obviously, if you're starting at 6 o'clock, still quite early to try and eat something, but I would really recommend that you do still try and eat something. But because you've done the bulk of the fueling the evening prior, this then means that the morning of the ride, depending on where you start, it could be, a small bowl of porridge, it might be some granola, it might be some muesli, it might be a couple of slices of toast. It might be, if you really are on the go, you're staying over somewhere in London, or you're starting at 6 and you're on the go to the start line. You may have some ready-made pots of porridge, I know work really well. You may even make some homemade, bakes, cakes, loaves, breads, wholemeal breads, granola bars, muesli bars, homemade stuff that you can then eat in the morning. And what that is allowing you to do, I would still recommend that you still really do have something, but because you've done the bulk of the fueling the evening prior, you can then wake up and then eat the remaining of that 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrate per kilo of body weight the morning of the ride, and there shouldn't be too much left there. If you're having a good pasta dish, a good rice dish, a pizza or something that I mentioned, then you should only really have around about 50, 60 grams of carbs maybe to eat in the morning before starting the ride, and you can get that in. One other little trick you can do is something that I always sometimes do for really early morning rides, is also drink some carbohydrates as well. Don't forget, you can use fruit juices are really high in carbohydrates as well. You can obviously use fruit itself, bananas, apples, all the other fruits that are out there, but you can also just mix up some carb mix in your bottle, and this is a really good way to not then have to force yourself to eat as much in the morning as well. If you've got a good carb mix out there that contains between 40 to 80 grams of carbohydrate, you can literally fire that in your bottle, start drinking that already on your way to the start line, and already there you're starting to really get some carbs in the system as well with what you've eaten prior. And maybe then, as I say, if you're already having some food with that as well, you're really topped up well, you've hit your pre-ride intakes, muscle and liver glycogen is topped up, energy levels are where they need to be for you to get to the start line and then roll out and feeling ready to go. In terms of pre-ride fueling, they're the amounts you want to dial in on. Start that from the Saturday. That will get you in a really good position. Just going to say hi to some people here who have said, I know that has said hi to Nick, Katie, good evening, Aston as well, Gary, Kevin, Dave, good evening. Hello everyone, thanks for joining this evening. I hope you're all well. If you're finding this information useful, guys, as I'm working through, as always, drop a like on the video. Always great to hear. And if anybody has got any questions, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. We'll allow some time for that, just so you can maybe ask anything there. So in terms of pre-ride fueling, that's your targets. Moving into during ride then, absolutely crucial, the during ride side of things as well, to really ensure that you've done a fantastic job. Just seeing that Steve's joined as well. Steve, good evening. You may have done a fantastic job with your pre-ride fueling, but it's really important that your during ride fueling is then the same quality. So for a ride of this duration and length, I am referring to the 100-mile sort of route this evening, but you can certainly apply these strategies that I'm mentioning to the shorter routes as well. But for the 100-mile route, I would really be aiming to target 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrates per hour. That's really got to be your target, and you've really got to try and achieve this from the first hour to the final hour of the ride to ensure that you're really keeping those energy levels where they need to be to put in your best performance and avoid, bonking or running out of energy. And one mistake, just I will say here, that I see a lot of riders make when they go to do these types of events is they will follow the guidance that I mentioned on the pre-ride fueling. Think that because they've done such a fantastic job with their pre-ride fueling on the Saturday, they've eaten every single carbohydrate out there, fueled up really well, is that because they've done this, they don't actually need to then start taking on or hitting those hourly targets that I mentioned during the ride until maybe the second, the third, or even in some cases the fourth hour. And if you wait this long, it doesn't matter how good and how well you have fueled pre-ride, it's too late. Okay, because when you get to that point, if your muscle and liver glycogen is depleted, you've run out of energy, it's really hard to try and build it and bring it back up to get it to a level where you actually feel good again and your energy is where it needs to be so that you know that you can really, perform at your best. And if you've spent the whole winter now training, it would really be a shame to make that mistake if you've been training for this ride now maybe for months over the winter. So really key. When I say 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrate, I really do mean that is literally from the first hour that you want to start fueling with that amount. 60 to 80 grams, absolutely crucial. Now, how can you achieve that 60 to 80 grams? To some of you, that might sound like not much at all. To some of you, you may have been training with that anyway. To some of you, 60 to 80 grams, you might be thinking, wow, that's quite a lot. So how do we achieve this? And I would always recommend that you go for a split carb profile. So I have like a triple carb profile sort of framework that I recommend here. And this is using solids, gels, and fluid form carbohydrates. So try not just to stick with one source. Try to split this, because I often find what people do, if they try and fuel a whole 100-mile ride purely on gel, you're going to get a lot of stomach discomfort. You're going to start probably to feel really quite sick, and you're just not going to feel great. Same if you go and try and do the whole ride on just fluid-based carbs in your bottle, or if you're really just trying to eat solids all the time through the ride, you're probably also really going to experience some stomach discomfort there as well. So really try to mix your carb profile throughout the ride each hour. So 1 hour you might be having a bar, 1 hour you might be having a gel, and then if you're just sipping on, we're going to get to hydration in a moment, but if you're then also just sipping some carbohydrates in your bottle, you're really getting a nice mixed carb profile there with the solids, with the gels, and with the fluids to really stay on top of that. And you can alternate this, as I say, but with the solids, just what can you use here? You can use energy bars, you can use homemade granola, you can use cereal bars. There's loads of things out there now from the sports nutrition companies. It might even be that you literally just go to your local supermarket and you may have been practicing this in training and you just get a really good cereal bar. Most good cereal bars, energy bars, carbohydrate bars are anything from 20 to maybe 30 grams of carbohydrate. And just by eating one of those an hour, you're already forming a real nice foundation, and having that each hour is going to allow you to get those solids in. Okay? In terms of solids, that's what you can use. You can obviously go and buy some pre-made stuff, or you can, I know there's a lot of people out there that really also just like to prep their own stuff, and this is absolutely fine. Granola bars, muesli bars, homemade bakes, cakes. Bakes and cakes are also really good things out there that you can use. Just look at how much is on the back of a pack and use that there. So there's some solid examples. Then going into gels, there's lots of things now that are coming out from the sports nutrition companies. Obviously, loads of gels out there. There's loads of chews. You can get carbohydrate chews now. You may even use like jelly babies is obviously the absolute classic that you can use to then just top up on top of the solids that you have been using, but then also just alternate things, as I mentioned there. So it's not just one source every hour. You may find that you go in a bar 1 hour, you may find you go in a gel, you then might be having some chews, you might be having some jelly babies, and you're just topping up and mixing that carb profile there to ensure you're getting good mixed sources in. To go with this then, having some carbs in your bottle is also really good. But what this is also really useful for is the timing of the ride. So for example, The ride itself, the route, there's not a huge amount of climbing in it. Over the 100 miles, it's relatively, it's a relatively flat ride, but there will be times where you may be having to push yourself a little bit. You may be having to do some climbing. If you're riding with a group, you may be having to do your turn at the front. And let's just say you are having to put an effort in on a climb, do your turn at the front, or there's a faster paced section of the ride. That's where you want to switch more to just drinking your carbohydrates, because the last thing you want to be doing if you're riding up a steep climb, doing your turn on the front, or there's a fast-paced section of the ride, is trying to eat an energy bar, because you'll probably find your breathing is going to be a lot heavier. Trying to ride at a faster pace and just undoing the wrapper and trying to eat it, you'll probably find you're going to end up spitting more of that solid or energy bar back out than you will actually do eating it. So using the 3 different types of carbs at different times of the ride to suit that time of the ride can also be really useful. So it's high paced climbs, doing your turn, sip on your carbohydrates, use it in fluid form. Obviously it's a lot easier to do that, and just drink them when you're riding at those faster paces or doing the harder efforts. When to use the gels then, this may be if you do know that there is a climb coming up, or there is going to be a faster paced section of the ride, or towards the latter stages you want to get a hit of carbohydrate in but don't feel like you can eat anything. Maybe 20 to 30 minutes before actually starting a climb, then that's where you want to have the gel, get good sources of carbs in there, top up with that, and that is what is going to allow you to get a good amount in there, a bit of a hit. Gel, again, it can be used when things are maybe at quite a fast pace, you're having to really concentrate. It's easier to just open a gel and have that, rather than doing it even when the ride is still going at a moderate pace, trying to eat a solid. And then where would you use your solids? This may be at a more cruisy time of the ride, when you are just cruising along. It's a bit, things have quietened down a little bit. It might be after the start goes off, and it's a more chilled time of the ride. You can then, you've got a bit more time to open up something, and then because your breathing's not as heavy, that's where you can eat your solid, your energy bar, your granola bar, have your banana, open up your banana, cruising along on that part of the ride, and eat that there. So yeah, mixing that profile is absolutely crucial, and I would really recommend, just with what you've actually been using in training as well. So there are going to be feed stations, throughout. I've looked here. There's 25 miles is the first feed station. The second one is at 53 miles. The third one is at 73 miles, and the fourth one is at 87 miles. So there's going to be feed stations there, and there's going to be stuff on those feed stations. But if you've been using things in training and practicing with, a certain bar in training, a certain gel in training, a certain carbohydrate mix, and I would recommend that you really try to take enough to stick with that, because you don't know maybe what is going to be at the feed stations, what they're going to have there. And it's better to have and use what you've been practicing with training for the majority of the ride, rather than only taking enough for maybe the first half and then just relying on whatever they have at the feed station. Really try to stock up and take as much as you can to get through. And then if you do have to pick up the odd bar or gel or top up at a feed station and just have some smaller something there, at least the bulk of what you've been fueling with is actually what you have been using in training. You can stomach it, that it works for you and your own personal preference there. Really important. Just seeing that Jake has said, I commented on that a while back. Jake said, best source of carbs for this. Yeah, hopefully what I've just mentioned there, Jake has given you some good examples on how to use those as well. Moving into the hydration then, hydration strategies, and absolutely crucial. We can have as much carbohydrate as we like, but if we're not hydrating, we can do the best, again, with the fueling, you do a fantastic job, but if you're not hydrating alongside this, then this is where things can really go wrong as well. So I've checked the weather for Sunday in London, and it's actually looking like weather conditions are going to be quite good. 22 degrees, mainly sun, maybe a little bit overcast in parts, but yeah, 22 degrees is a nice temperature, but actually maybe slightly on the warmer side of things. And it's important to check the temperatures, as this can really then obviously influence your sweat rates, how much you're going to be sweating. The more you sweat, the more fluid you're going to be losing, but also the more electrolytes that you're going to be losing as well. So it's really important that you are then replenishing those fluid and electrolytes through what you're sweating out. So a minimum of 500 millilitres or 500 to 750 millilitres of fluid per hour is what you really want to be targeting on Sunday. How can you achieve this? I would really recommend, if you can, trying to get as big bottles, water bottles, as you can, because really, if you think 4 litres, if you're going at 500 millilitres an hour, is going to then see you through about 4 hours, which is a good time. Obviously, I've mentioned where the feed stations are. You're going to be able to fill up there. And if you know you've got 4 hours worth of fluid on board, you're covered there. For that duration, that's certainly going to get you to a feed station. You'll probably find maybe you don't then need to stop at the first feed station at 25 miles. It might be then you stop at 53 or 73. But again, it's better to be safe than sorry here and just stop at an earlier one rather than trying to push through, finding that you run out and then obviously getting dehydrated and then starting to suffer with cramp there and things. So really key, 500 to 750 millilitres of fluid, and combine some electrolytes with this as well. So you may find that the carbohydrate mix that you've been using also does contain electrolytes as well. So sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus is also in there as well, other salts. But the sort of sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, they are the key ones that you want to have. A few carbohydrate mixes will also already include these. So when you mix your carb mix in your fluid, there may be some electrolytes in there as well. If they don't have that, then one other thing you can do is you can supplement these with the electrolyte tabs. A lot of the sports nutrition companies have the electrolyte tablets out there. They do also now sell them in a lot of supermarkets, Holland and Barrett, you know, your pharmacies, those type of sort of supplement shops and things. You can literally just get a real basic salt tablet, electrolyte tablet, and you can fire that in your bottle with your carbohydrate mix. And you know that you're getting your fluid in, you're replenishing your fluid, but as I mentioned, you're replenishing your electrolytes as well. And the two main causes of cramp are dehydration and a negative electrolyte or imbalance with your electrolytes. So if you find that, you're getting cramp a lot, or someone who suffers with cramp, really ensure that you're staying on top of your hydration and that you're keeping your electrolyte balance where it needs to be. As I say, they are the two primary causes of cramp, so you really need to stay on top of that, along with the fueling with the carbohydrates as well, and you should be safe with that there. And as I mentioned, just really ensure that you're doing this from the first hour. These hourly amounts, the same with the fluid. Ensure that you are drinking from the first hour as well. Don't let yourself get to the second or third hour and realise that you've still got loads of fluid left in your bottle, because then it will be too late and you will be maybe running risk of actually getting cramp. So really start this from the first hour. Absolutely crucial. Also is then the latter hours as well, where sometimes you can forget to actually then fuel and hydrate. So really everybody does a great job of fueling at the sort of the midpoint of the ride, because they'll get to hour 3 or 4 and think, oh yeah, I need to eat something, I need to drink something. But they neglect the first hour, and then the first hours, and then it's the same with the latter parts of the ride. They think, oh yeah, I've already eaten something and drank something, and that was at hour 3 or 4, but then you're actually at maybe hour 5 or 6, and it was actually an hour ago or 2 hours ago that you drank or ate something. So every single hour, as you can tell, I've said it enough times already this evening, please stay on top of those hourly intakes to ensure you're getting there. Just in terms of stocking up and carrying things, a few quick tips here is, if you have an electrolyte or carbohydrate mix that you know works well, you may have them in sachets, which is great because you can just put the sachets in your jersey. You may be taking a saddle bag with you. You may be taking a bag that you can put on your top tube or something. You can put more in there. But another great thing that works well are just the small plastic sandwich bags that you can put your carbohydrate mix or your electrolyte powder in there, because you know you want to use what you've been using in training again, and you know that works for you. Just get the little sandwich bags, put the powder in there. Might look a little bit suspicious in terms of when you're carrying those bags, but it's a great way to ensure that you can take what you want with you in terms of your carbohydrate mix or electrolyte powder. You've got that with you then, and you're not having to change or mix anything up on the ride, which could then cause discomfort in your stomach. Just a few other tips as well is, if you need to set those reminders, or you do forget to drink and eat a lot, on your bike computer, if you have one, there are many of them out there, Garmin, Wahoo, there's lots of them out there now. You can set reminders on your bike computer. This is another really good way to ensure, every 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, that it just flashes up with a little alarm. It says, remember to eat, remember to drink, have your gel, have your bar, have something there. That is a really good way. And another way to remind yourself is actually what I've done in the past, which has worked really well, is I'm not sure if Ride London do the stickers. Some of the other big major sportives and events do this. They have a route profile sticker, and it has like the mileages where the feed stations are, and you can stick these on your stem, or you can stick them on your top tube, and on there you can just write your little reminders with what you're going to have at certain points on the ride with the mileage and the elevation gain. It will also, a lot of the events, they have their feed stations on there. So as I say, for this year it's 25, 53, 73 and mile 87 where the feed stations are, and you may just note those down and just have what you're going to have on your little bit of notes where you can stick those. And that's a really good way to just make sure that you're staying on top of both the fueling and the hydration amounts there to help. And in terms of, just really just going through some stuff this evening with you guys, I wanted to do that. That's the pre-ride, the during ride, dialing in on it, lots of questions, wanted to go through. I hope you found that useful, and I hope that you can really, implement some of those things. I hope that you maybe just been able to take some tips. Steve has just said, yes, they have that sticker with the route profile. Excellent, Steve. Great. Thanks for letting us know that. That's brilliant. So yeah, print that out, stick it on your top tube, stick it on your stem. And that's really good because you can then, make some of your own notes on there, or you'll be able to see where the feed stations are. So that's a great way to do it as well. So yeah, I guess now, guys, opening up for any questions, really. If you've got any questions you want to fire in, happy to hang around on here for a few more minutes and just, answer any questions. But yeah, if you found any of the information useful this evening, guys, then please, I'd love to see some likes on the video. Please feel free to share this on any platforms as well. If you've got any, within your cycling communities, within your clubs, within any of your cycling buddies that you may have who are maybe doing the ride with you this weekend, or even, a lot of the strategies that I've mentioned this evening, you can apply to lots of your, whether it's just a longer training ride or your sportives or events that you may have this year. So yeah, drop a like on the video. Would love it if you could, share the video around Facebook or within your communities. That would be much appreciated. But yeah, hope you found the information useful. This video will also be posted on the My Cycling Coach main Facebook page, and I will try and get it uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you can refer back to this at any time there. Just seeing that Jamie said, hi Ben, in regards to sweating, I have trouble with it burning my eyes, especially if I applied sun cream. Any tips there, mate? Applying sun cream, sweating, maybe, really just try and make sure you rub that sun cream in there. It would be looking at for, I know that there are some more specific sports sun lotions and sun creams out there which do help prevent this when you are, sweating, to really prevent that happening. Just really trying to, rub the sun cream in well, going for a sun cream lotion, or don't put the sun cream on your forehead, Nick. You don't want to burn your forehead then maybe, but rub it in well, Jamie, or maybe just look for a more sports sun lotion to avoid that from happening. I definitely know there are ones out there to do that. Just seeing that Steve said, last year I used talc powder but had 950 millilitres at the start, 50-50 Coke and water, Coca-Cola, not a Class A. What's your take on that as a drink? As I've found it at the stops, it stops me bonking better than most sports drinks. You at the end of the day, during ride, it's the carbohydrates can also be sugar. Sugar is the carbohydrate. That's where you will transfer more into the simple based carbohydrates, which is more sugary based carbs. If you find the Coke works for you, this is absolutely fine. No problem. I would only just say the thing with the Coke is to make sure that you are also then getting some electrolytes in it with it as well. But at the feed stations, they will probably have fizzy drinks and things like that. It is an isotonic. You can get those in. It will work. It will allow you to get sugar in the system. And just one thing here as well, with the sugary drinks, the Coke, Fanta, Sprite, those sorts of things as well, if you do get in trouble and you find that you have forgotten to eat and you do get to the point where you feel like you're bonking, then drinking those sorts of sugary drinks can really just get you back up and get some sugar in the system very, very quickly and help you recover and get out of a bit of a low there as well. Kevin has said, I wear a sweatband or a thin hat under the helmet as I have the same issue. This works. Brilliant. That's a great input there, Kevin. Thank you for that. Yeah, sweatband under the helmet. Fantastic one there. Brilliant. Thanks for that, Kevin. Any other questions, guys, fire them in. But as I say, hope you found that useful this evening. Drop a like on the video. Please feel free to share. Steve has said, cheers, mate. No worries at all, Steve. See if there's any more questions. Like, share, comment, share this with your communities. I'd love to see if you've got, if your club has a community or something on Facebook and you are allowed to share some of these things in. I really do hope that it helps. I ran this evening as I just got so many questions around Ride London and fueling. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to take some time this evening and run through this. And yeah, hopefully you found it useful. Steve said, really good, Ben. Thanks for your time. No worries, Steve. You're welcome. Yeah, it doesn't look like there are any other questions in there as well. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for coming on this evening. I hope you found it useful. Yeah, I'd just love to wish everybody the best of luck for this coming Sunday. Let us know how you get on. We'd love to see some posts on there. Getting a big group for those people doing the ride makes so much easier. Definitely, I don't normally take that amount of carbs in on the ride and haven't trained taking that amount you've said on. Just with that, Jake, if you're not taking that amount on, then try to go maybe more 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate. Just if you haven't trained, up to 80, you will need to train this. Don't maybe try and go straight up to 80 grams. Go to maybe more 40 to 60 to start off with, and that will be okay. You should be okay there. Katie said, thanks, Ben. No worries at all, Katie. Thanks for coming on this evening. Nick said, great info and good luck to everyone riding. Yeah, definitely. Guys, well, yeah, good luck to everybody. Fuel smart, ride strong, and please do keep safe out there as well. Good night, everybody.